Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to be talking about the third episode from the Game of Thrones Telltale series. I guess with that, a couple characters from the show who appear in this episode are Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister. We've got Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister, Natalie Dormer as Marjorie Tyrell, Kit Harington as Jon Snow, and Emilia Clarke as Daenerys Targaryen. And in this episode, like in the previous ones, you play as multiple characters. This episode, you play as Mira Forrester, Roderick Forrester, Garrett Tuttle, and Asher Forrester. So, just like in the previous episodes, what I'll do is instead of going through the episode the way linearly as the episode did, instead I will focus on each location the character is at and go through their whole story before moving on to the next one. So, first we are at King's Landing. And at King's Landing, Mira and Sarah are talking about the upcoming wedding between Marjorie Tyrell and King Joffrey. And while they're talking, you can kind of have the option to, again, be more close with Sarah or more distant with her. I went kind of more distant because she seemed a little bit shady the last two episodes, so I don't have the best feeling about her. She ultimately runs off to talk to this lord, who she's hoping to meet at the wedding and have a chance at marrying. Meanwhile, you talk to the Coal Boy from the last episode, or the previous episodes, who you killed one of the King's Guard to help. So he comes and talks to you, says he'd heard people talking about it, but no one knows who did it. He'll dispose of the knife that you killed the man with. He'll find it and deal with it so that neither of you will get in trouble. He also introduces himself as Tom. While you're talking to him, Sarah comes back and asks you about the Coal Boy, and I played it off saying, oh, he has a crush on me or something, and I have a hard time telling him to go away. So thanks for doing that. So I tried to play it like I don't like him kind of thing, and I think it worked. Because then we say, okay, tell me about this lord you wanted to meet, and Sarah goes into it. After this, you go and you meet Cersei and Marjorie Tyrell talking. And while they're talking, Cersei says that the handmaidens, you and Sarah, cannot sit at the table during the wedding because the King's Guard will be there. Sarah is upset because, again, she sees this wedding as a chance for her to meet a lord and get married. I played it cool and was like, all right, that's fine. Again, I don't want to be on Cersei Lannister's radar at all, and if I am, I want to be on her good side. Cersei then says to Marjorie that her handmaidens can't talk to Tyrion anymore. She needs to get control of them. And Marjorie agrees and chews us out a bit and says don't talk to him, specifically specifying us because she knows that we've talked to him. And we're like, oh, it's for my family. And she's like, don't do it anymore. This is my family. You need to, my being queen is at stake. I don't want Cersei mad at me. And if she's mad at me because of you, I'm going to be mad at you. Kind of thing. So, cool. That goes well. A little while later, we're walking with Marjorie Tyrell and Sarah. And Tyrion comes up to us and says, hey, how's it going? Could I have a word with you, Mira? And Marjorie says, how could I deny Tyrion? How could I deny you? Sure. And so then we're faced with our kind of first decision here, which is, are we going to speak to Tyrion or not? And I went along with him. So I defied Marjorie's orders not to speak to him and did. 48% of people did this, whereas 52% of people obeyed Marjorie and didn't speak to Tyrion. I didn't. I went and spoke to him because she gave permission in the moment. I felt like it would be weird to deny him when Marjorie's like, yeah, go talk to her. And then I'm like, nah, I don't want to. Like, I thought it was weird, so I didn't do that. I don't know. I feel like this situation should have been understandable. I also did want to know what Tyrion had to say, but more so, situationally, it seemed great. Chris on Twitter wrote in, though, and he did the opposite. He says he did not talk to Tyrion. So I don't know how it plays out if you don't, but he didn't. After this, speaking with Tyrion, he says that they are going to purchase the Ironwood from House Forrester, that there's a decree for it on his desk. So, big win for the Forresters. Really glad I went after him to do this. Very positive. After this, Marjorie is upset that I talked to Tyrion and is kind of like, you might get fired. Like, I might not want to see you again after the wedding. And I'm going to have Sarah help me instead. So that was worrisome. However, if the wood is sold, perhaps my work is done and we could be all right. After this, at the wedding, a guard tries to question you about the missing other guard from the last episode that you killed. And he tries to talk to you, and he's like, "Oh, I saw you there. I want to question you." But Rickard Morgan, who you haven't met yet, saves you. He intervenes and is like, "I need this handmaiden," and tells the guard, "I will have King Joffrey have you killed if you don't let me do this," threatens him, and the guard relents. He then says, "I don't know what that was about, but I saved you." So you're like, as Mira, you're like, "Well, why?" No, you didn't do it just because it was a good thing to do. He reveals that he was the one who was trying to sell the Ironwood on behalf of Lord Whitehill, but you were able to get the deal instead, and he proposes a partnership between the two of you, because if you work together, you can set the price of Ironwood together and get rich together and all of that. So it seems fairly promising. Here, there is a massive spoiler alert for the TV show. This game takes place between the end of Season 3 and the beginning of Season 5. So if you care about spoilers, skip ahead a minute. So we hear King Joffrey being poisoned, and he dies. And we see Tyrion being arrested and taken away. Huge. This is a big deal. At this point, Rickard Morgan says, "Never mind, I can't be partners with you, because if you're partners with Tyrion and you got that deal with him, Tyrion's bad news here now. Tyrion's bad, so sorry." And bad news for us too. Our Ironwood that we sold, that deal is probably no longer valid. And in fact, if it's known that we had a deal with Tyrion, perhaps we're on the chopping block as well. So Tom helps us break into Tyrion's office to get the Ironwood decree back. He has to do some diversions for us because Kingsguard are going there to guard it, and they see us there. It gets potentially questionable, but we manage to escape, and we're given our second decision with Mira, which is, what do we do with the Ironwood decree? I decided to keep it, which 71% of people decided to do that, whereas 29% of people decided to burn it. And I kept it. I'm not 100% sure why. Maybe in hopes that it could still be valid, or, I guess depending who becomes the next Hand of the King, which is what Tyrion was doing. Something like that. I don't know. Burning it seemed like a waste. I figured I could keep it hidden somewhere, and perhaps it could be useful. That was my thought. I hope it doesn't bite me in the ass. It definitely could. Thinking about Tyrion could be not good. Okay, now we go to Ironrath with Roderick. And we get there, and the Whitehill's men are causing trouble. They're burning shit outside, making a ruckus, harassing people. They are being terrible people to have to live with, ultimately. And what they end up doing is they kick you out of the Great Hall where you live and decide to move in there themselves, saying, "You gave us shitty barracks, well, we're taking over your house now." It sucks. It's super shitty. We end up planning with our kind of council we have this option to either have a plan to get Ryan back or try to kick Griff Whitehill out. And Griff Whitehill is Lord Whitehill's fourth son. He's the one who's in charge of House Forrester right now. He's kind of in charge and making our life shitty. After this, Duncan arranges a meeting between Roderick and Gwen Whitehill, who we're childhood friends with her, have known her a while, and she's been a positive thing, but it's a little leery. Is she going to work against us? Is she going to work for us? What's the deal? When you meet with her, she tells you that there is a spy among your council. She knows that I decided to try to get Ryan back. She says, we already know about that, and we're ready. There's a spy on your council. If you tell your council that there's a spy, it will get back to me. I will find out. So, very problematic. Who is the spy? Is it a Forrester themselves? Is it Duncan? Is it the general guy whose name I'm forgetting right now? He's pretty aggressive. Is it him? Is it the maester? Concerning. Very concerning. She also tells us that we should let Griff think that he's in charge. If he feels like he's in charge, he won't cause problems and we'll be able to get through this without bloodshed. That's her goal. She wants us to know see if that's our goal. I agreed, because right now, really, I think we'd just get killed. I don't really trust that we wouldn't, so the more we can stand by. And the fact that Roderick is super fucked up. He's still got his cane. He won't be able to be of any use in a war. He would just die. So we've got to bide our time. After this, we are inside the Great Hall, and Whitehill's men are reenacting Ethan's death and making a lot of fun and are drunk and shit like that. It sucks. It's super aggravating. I'm looking forward to getting to kill these people, hopefully. Hope they get what's coming to them. After this, Griff is getting ready to hurt Talia, our sister, because she bit one of his men. She explains that she bit one of his men because he was stealing food from the pantry. That's why she did it, but Griff wants to punish her and hurt her. Roderick, though, steps in and says, leave her out of this. Like, she had a good reason. Don't do this. And you have a chance to... Your next choice that comes up is how are you going to handle this interaction with Griff Whitehill? You can either submit to him, which 68% of people did, or stand up to him, which 32% of people did. And I submitted to him. I took Gwen's advice to heart that he just wants to feel in charge, and so I did. He kicks me on the ground, and you have these options to either stay down or you can stand up to him and, no, you can't push us around. I decided to just take it. I didn't want Talia to get hurt. With the other episode 1, with Ethan dying so suddenly, I didn't want any more Forresters to die, especially. So I didn't want that to go down that way, so I did what he wanted. So I stayed down. Chris, on the other hand, on Twitter, he stood his ground. So he stood up to Lord Whitehill. After this, or to Griff Whitehill. After this, you end up talking with Talia on the roof, and she understands your actions. Now, I imagine it's this way whether you stand up or don't. For me, I yielded, and she says, I understand why you did that. I told Ethan that he shouldn't change who he is because he's king. That was foolish. We all have to change for this. I'm ready to do what it takes. You acknowledge, me too. That's why I'm yielding, because when Griff's not ready, we're going to get him. We'll lull them into thinking we're submitted. Then we'll attack. We'll strike at that point. So, awesome. After this, we go to Castle Black at the Wall. And it starts off with us getting assigned. So Garrett and Finn are assigned to the Rangers. Cotter gets assigned to the Builders. After this, we are on our way to the Werewood Tree to pledge our allegiance to the Night's Watch. And on the way, we talk with Jon Snow. And Jon Snow talks with Garrett about how that the other members of the Night Watch are now your brothers. It's no longer, people you don't like or didn't get along with, like our issues we had with Finn. But you need to be brothers. And he recounts his own experience of not having friends when he first got to Castle Black and how he's since made them, and he'd die for them and they would die for him. So we go up to Finn and we patch things up with him, and we're friends and have this good interaction where he acknowledges, I think I push you hard because you're actually the only friend I have, and that kind of thing. It's good. It's nice that we now have two friends, both in Cotter and in Finn. After this, Uncle Duncan shows up at the wall to bring some ironwood shields, but really it's to talk to us. And when he talks to us, he asks us about the North Grove, which is what Lord Forrester, the deceased, told us, never let the North Grove fall. And Uncle Duncan agrees with that, and he brings a map on how to get to the North Wall to us, or the North Grove. He brings it to us and says, you need to find the North Grove, because the way Lord Forrester talks, it sounds like that it's A, a real place, B, that he's actually been there, and C, that he thinks it could win us this war. So you need to find it, Garrett, so we can do this. And we agree. After this, we see that Britt has been sent to the wall. That douchebag who killed our family, apparently, after that, White Hills sent him to the wall for killing civilians. So, of course, he's here with us. And when we see him, he starts talking shit right away. And it sucks. It's super shitty. We tell Jon Snow that this is the guy that murdered our family. Jon Snow is like, that sucks that he's that way, but if he becomes a Night Watch, like, he's one of our brothers, and there's a lot of people here who are murderers, so you need to be able to be brothers with him. It's concerning. Not good. After this, there's some traitors that Jon Snow asks us to join up with him to go after. And we say, yeah, sure. And Jon Snow says, Britt's going to be there. He took the black. He's one of us now. It's not going to be a problem. And you're like, okay. And he's like, no, I mean, it needs to not be a problem. Even if he comes at you, you can't go back at him. And so I agree and say, yes, it won't be a problem. I'm not going to do anything. We'll be cool. After this talk, we speak with Cotter and Finn because Cotter stole our map. He says, I saw you talking to your uncle. I figured you were up to something, and so I snuck this map. And he talks about it with you and Finn discussing the North Grove. Cotter seems to believe in the North Grove, whereas Finn thinks it's kind of a fairy tale that kids believe, so he thinks it's kind of dumb, and he ends up walking away. After this, you're continuing to talk with Cotter, and you're like, well, why do you believe in this? Like, if Finn thinks it's a fairy tale, why do you want to go? Cotter says, I want to desert with you to go find this North Grove. I'm interested. And you press him a little bit, and you find out that Cotter's a wildling. He's one of the free folk. And that he was raiding some villages when Night's Watch came in, and he was going to get captured, and so he disguised himself as a villager and ended up going to jail for stealing, and that's how he ended up here on the wall. So he decided to blend in, which was pretty interesting. And so now his goal is that once he's outside the wall, he wants to escape and go back to the free folk. So he says, I'll go with you, and I can take you as much of the way towards North Grove as I can before I have to split off from you. Which is nice. Although it's kind of a shitty, bizarre situation, it's nice to have a friend, and I chose to reaffirm friendship here. Just seeing how Jon Snow was with free folk in the past and stuff like that. And I don't know. Positive. After this, Garrett is on watch duty along with Finn. Finn's supposed to be doing kind of guard duty on the wall, and you're supposed to keep torches lit. And you're doing that. It's all right. But then Britt shows up, and he is eager to fight. Eager to kill you. And Britt attacks us, and you have some options to defend yourself. You have some different fighting going on. Ultimately, you end up slashing him, and you have him pinned up towards the wall. You can either cut at his chest, like stab him towards his chest, or cut at his arm. I cut at his arm because I told Jon Snow that I wouldn't kill him and wouldn't do anything, so I figured I would just injure him. At this point, you have an opportunity on what you will do to Britt. And you have three options. One is walking away, which 70% of people did. You can give Britt a quick death, which 19% of people did. Or you can make Britt suffer. And 11% of people did this. I chose to walk away. There's this point where Britt's on the side of the wall and he says, just end it, just finish me. And so you can, I think, stab him, you can kick him off the wall, or you can just walk away. I just walked away. Again, I figured he would be alive and that Jon Snow would understand. Chris on Twitter, though, he kicked him over the wall. And I watched a video of this, and it was very satisfying. I kind of wish I would have kicked him over the wall, because it seems like he dies anyway. Even though I just left him, I think his injury is severe enough that he just dies anyway. So that's a little disappointing. If I knew he was going to die either way, I would probably have kicked him over too. But I didn't. Okay. After this, you go across the narrow sea with Asher. And you've got Asher, Beskha, and Malcolm being hunted by the Lost Legion. Of course, we had that giant skirmish with them before, and it's still going. After this, as they're running, they run into this dead end of valley that they can't get through. But they end up finding a cave that they can go through the mountain with. As we're going through the cave, we run into a dragon. And so we have this crazy scene where inside the cave there's an exit, but there's a dragon there on the part of the cave we went in. The Lost Legion is fighting Beskha and Uncle Malcolm. And so it's pretty crazy. It's a wild scene, fighting back and forth. And you end up in this spot where the Lost Legion is starting to surround Malcolm, and the dragon is going after Beskha. And you're given the option of who will you save? Who will you intervene to help? Malcolm or Beskha? And I chose to save Beskha. 51% of people did this. 41% of people went after Malcolm. Chris on Twitter, like me, went after Beskha to save her. My reasoning being is that we'd been fighting with her for a long time. Before this, that we got kicked out of House Forrester. We got exiled here. That's why we're here. Like, if it's between my real friends and my family, for Asher, it's got to be my real friends because that's really my family at this point. I'm a Forrester, but sort of. So you save Beskha, and Malcolm doesn't die. Instead, he gets burnt by the dragon's fire a little bit on his shoulder and back. It's not good, but he's alive. So we saved her. And I feel good about that. I'm all right. If Malcolm would have died, I would have felt bad for him, but I'm glad he's still alive. After this, we go to meet up with a guy named Croft, who was I think a fellow mercenary who we have history with. When we meet up with him, he acts pretty threatening and says, "You think you could just come back here?" And he ends up saying, trying to get us to say, "Okay, I'll be done with you after I cut off your hand or your eye. Which one do you want?" I say none, and then he says, "Okay, I'm going to cut off your balls." And so, of course, super concerned. He acts like he's getting ready to stab us, and then he just stabs the wall behind us, and then starts laughing and says he's glad to see us, that our bygones are bygones. He's happy we're here. So this is pretty scary, pretty crazy. Glad he's with us, and he tells us that he works for Daenerys Targaryen now. He's among her soldiers, and he's with her. And he says that her dragon is missing. And we say, "Oh, we know where that dragon is. We actually just saw it. We can help find it for her." He's a little skeptical, but we keep pushing. He ultimately says, "Okay, I can arrange a meeting with you, with her for you. But if this dragon's not real, I really am going to cut off your balls." We agree. The episode ends with us meeting Dany Targaryen, and she says, "Okay, if you know where my dragon really is, make it quick and take me there." Boom. Episode ends. This was really fun. It was fun getting back into this game. Of course, I've not played for maybe a month, 6 weeks, something like that. It's been a little while that I haven't played this. So it was really fun to get back in. In this meantime, too, I'm actually live with the show. So that's pretty fun. Now seeing this in its, I don't know where it's headed, but I don't know how House Forrester will fit, and I'm not going to, again, spoil anything TV show future-wise or anything like that, and provide spoilers as needed, but pretty cool. It's a cool episode. I'm looking forward to playing the next one. House Forrester has been super fun. And really just the Game of Thrones world and characters and people and the intersecting of all this. It's really great. It's super fascinating. And I'm really, really enjoying it quite a lot. So awesome episode. Really enjoyed it. If you have thoughts on this on Game of Thrones, please send them in at TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed@gmail.com or on Twitter at StoryEverPod. And please rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know what you think about the podcast. Please share it with your friends. And that'd really mean a lot. We'd really appreciate it. And we will see you next time.